Thanks for staying with us. Nick Aguli joins us via Zoom to discuss Nigeria at 65, our energy journey through history. Nick is an oil and gas expert. Good morning, Nick. Trust you can hear us clearly this morning.
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning, and good morning to our viewers globally.
Nigeria at 65 years. How would you describe our energy journey so far? I mean, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Thank you very much. To describe a 65-year journey in the energy sector is akin to writing a PhD thesis or writing a book, to be honest, because it has been a long journey, more than half a century long. However, if we were to summarize it for the purpose of the limited time on TV, we'll say that there has been the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the good is that Nigeria discovered oil back in 1950, and we have produced crude oil every day since then for till date. So 1950 to 1965, we're talking about 75 years. So we discovered crude oil even before we became independent. So for these 75 years, there has never been a single day that Nigeria has not produced crude oil. What has happened, however, is just the quantity produced, which has varied from a top 2.5 million barrels to a bottom less than 1 million barrels. We have oscillated production within that range. So that is good. The second good thing, of course, is that whilst we were looking for oil, a byproduct also showed up, and that is gas. And we have been producing gas for the same period of 75 years. And we have harnessed the gas, which we have been using locally and for exports. And we actually not then decided that we are going to produce gas alone. And that is how we set up the Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas Company, the NLNG for short. And that company has been liquefying and exporting gas since it started operations many years ago. So that's also a good one. The other aspect of energy is electricity. Again, the good is that we have generated and supplied electricity for a long time since independence, even though we have issues in the electricity sector. But the point is that Nigeria has built electricity infrastructure from generation to transmission to distribution. And we are not importing electricity. So we are enjoying electricity that is domestically generated or produced. So that's another good thing. The other good thing, of course, is that renewable energy is making a strong showing in Nigeria, beginning from individual installations of solar panels in homes and businesses, to government initiatives to generate more renewable energies and all of that. So that's coming up. So I would say that is the good. What is the bad is that Nigeria has not been able to take advantage of the huge energy sources that we are blessed with. So, for instance, crude oil reserves that we have spent money to develop. It's another good thing, actually. So we have spent money to explore for crude oil and we have actually found 38 billion barrels of crude oil in the ground. That is discovered, ready to be produced. We have also found over 200 trillion standard cubic feet of gas discovered, ready to be produced. The bad thing is that we have not taken advantage of these discoveries to produce them in large quantities so that it will impact positively on the Nigerian economy. For instance, the likes of Saudi Arabia are producing almost 10 million barrels per day. So if Saudi Arabia, a small nation in population compared to us, are producing 10 million barrels, I don't think anything should have stopped us from producing 5 to 7 to 8 or even those 10 million barrels per day. Instead, we're producing less than 2 million barrels. So imagine the impact that um, it will have on our economy if our production was maybe like 5 million barrels per day. We would have had double the money that we earn now from crude oil sales, and that could have impacted more positively on the Nigerian economy and created a lot of domestic jobs for our young people here. You know, again, gas, we're also not producing enough gas. So a nation like Qatar that started gas well after us, even sent people to come and learn some of the gas exploration and production, exploration, development, and production from us. They are now one of the world leaders of gas. They produce so much gas that they now are not even members of OPEC. So because they are now a gas nation. Nigeria has not punched our weight in terms of getting gas to work like that. You know, when I talk about the ugly is that Nigeria, let me start with gas, which I'm talking about. The ugly aspect of our association with gas is that Nigeria is flaring gas. Perhaps at the time that we started crude oil production with gas coming with it, which is called the associated gas, associated with crude oil coming with it, we didn't need that associated gas. We were looking for crude oil. So the technology as at that time was to flare the gas. But along the way, enough technology was developed to harness that gas and put it to uses, either domestic, commercial, industrial uses. But we have not adopted that. So we continue to flare our gas till today. And as I speak today, gas is the biggest source of electricity generation around the world. And yet Nigeria does not have electricity, but we are flaring gas. So, and the effect, the negative impact of flaring gas is many. There are many negative effects. Number one, like I said, we have lost the opportunity to unlock value from the gas so that we can use it for things like electricity generation, cooking gas, and even exporting it. Number two, it is causing a lot of environmental damage. You know, it is the flared gas that contributes to what you have like soot in the Niger Delta and all of that. You know, so much environmental damage coming from that. You know, so that is an ugly sin. The fact that as of today, we're still flaring gas without having to harness the gas. The other ugly thing is that for many decades, as in like many decades, Nigeria, though one of the largest producers of crude oil in the world, we're still importing all of our refined products into Nigeria. A real ugly thing. There is no nation in the world that is producing the quantum of crude oil that was importing all of their petroleum products. But that situation has changed now with the coming on stream of the Dangote refinery, because that refinery has more or less removed shame from us as one of the nations with the biggest um, uh, oil and gas production capacities without refining capacity. It was a real ugly one because Nigeria suffered a lot from perennial fuel shortages that resulted into a lot of families killed because people were storing petroleum products in their homes, which sometimes then caught fire and killed entire families. And sometimes the petroleum products are being transported, the tanker falls over, And because of the scarcity, Nigerians will go to scoop it, and hundreds of Nigerians will be incinerated when the whole place bursts into fire. And that continued, sadly, for so long. But like I said, Dangote Refinery has come to the rescue. But still, there's an ugly bit that is left in that downstream, in fact, midstream sector, which is to say that even though Dangote Refinery has come on stream, we still have 4 refineries owned by Nigerians, jointly owned by all Nigerians, with a combined capacity of 445,000 barrels of refining capacity per day. And as I speak today, those refineries are still dead. You know, as a big one, and it doesn't down serious at all. And that is because we have another ugly case. And that ugly case is a company that is called the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. They used to be called the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation. This is a behemoth that instead of putting a lot of money into the pockets of Nigerians, just like their counterparts are doing in Saudi Arabia with Saudi Aramco, with Petrobras in Brazil, Petronas in Malaysia, and all of that. Those are national oil companies as well. This, our own, has become a source of our poverty, continuously taking our money, spending it without producing results. It's a really ugly one. I think it's perhaps one of the few national oil companies in the world that is doing this to her citizens. Instead of being a source of prosperity, this NNPCL is a source of poverty for Nigerians. And we hope that President Tinubu will really just do something about this NNPCL, because even now that he's changed the management, you can see the controversies that are trailing them. One hand, the group managing director and CEO of the NNPCL is saying all options are on the table for the refineries, including SAP, only for him to return to Nigeria, and for whatever reason, he twists his tongue, changes his mouth, and say, no, sell or refineries no more on the table. They are just playing games with us. And for all this while, the very first of those refineries that came on stream was in 1965. 1965, that refinery came on stream. And until today, the whole 4 refineries are not producing a liter of petrol, but they are paying their staff fully. They are taking our money and all of that, taking loans that our children and grandchildren will pay, and sinking into the refineries by producing nothing. So I think at this point, I will give way to say, this is my view of the journey, the good, the bad, and the ugly of the energy sector over the 65 years of our nationhood.
Interesting analysis, Mr. Agule. I have 2 questions for you. I wanted to find out, given your experience and expertise, what would be the way forward in mitigating these threats and challenges facing our energy sector? However, I am curious because you mentioned a couple of areas, energy areas, electricity, gas, crude, and gas, crude, renewable energy too. But somehow you failed to mention coal and the part it played in Nigeria's energy sector. Is there a real reason why it was omitted, given the fact that nations like China still runs on coal as a form of energy? What are your thoughts?
So I'm going to break the question into 2 parts. The first one is I'll talk about coal, and then the second part is that I'm going to talk about what do we need to do to turn the bad and the ugly into good as far as our energy sector is concerned. So talking about coal, yes, it was a mistake that I didn't mention coal, because coal was an important piece in the energy jigsaw in Nigeria at some point before it declined, and now it's hardly being used. So that is, I give credit to coal for that, because it did support our energy sector at some point. But the reason why I wouldn't support coal now going forward is because coal is a dirty source of energy. It requires us to dig and excavate large swatches of land to mine the coal. And then when the coal is brought to the surface, the use of the coal, the world agrees, is not it's not clean. So one, coal is not a renewable source of energy. Number two, it is not a clean source of energy. The energy that the world agrees is the transition energy from fossil fuels to renewable energy is gas, because gas is cleaner. Gas is a fossil fuel, but it's a cleaner source of energy. So, I mean, recently I heard about the governor of Enugu State saying that they are going to revive the coal industry. There are, of course, nations like China, like you said, that are still using coal. I mean, a lot of nations are still using coal, even in the UK. In the UK, they are still using coal, but it's just that the quantum of coal they are using now is not as much as it was when coal was the leading source of energy. So coal is in decline in terms of its contribution to the energy mix. But as much as some would state for championing the cause to energize his state, which is very important. Because I tell all these governors parading up and down that as long as you don't give energy to your state, nothing is going to happen. A 21st century economy without sufficient energy will never thrive, regardless of what the handlers want it to be. It's like doctors who refuse to give enough blood to a human body and they spend all the time trying to make that human body to be well. The human body will never be well. So that is it with energy. So as much as Enugu State governor wants to champion this coal thing, my advice to him would be that he should just leave coal. There are many other sources of energy that he can look at. He can look at renewable energy. The money that he wants to use now to explore, excavate, and use coal, he should put it into renewable energy. He should put it into solar farms. He should put it into wind farms. And then he should go for hydroelectricity. You see, hydroelectricity is one of the best sources of energy. It's a renewable source of energy. And it's one of the best sources of energy. Why? Because I tell people, Nigeria is such a blessed country that I have been to almost all parts of Nigeria. Perhaps where I haven't really gone to a lot is in the north, far north. But all the 17 states, there are 19 states in the north, right? Then 17 in the south. That's 36 states. I have been to all the 17 states in southern Nigeria, every one of them. And I can say that there is none of the states in southern Nigeria, and even the ones in northern Nigeria, where I've been to, that you may go 2 kilometers without seeing a running body of water. And that running body of water provides a huge opportunity to a state like Enugu State. If Governor Mba diverts the money he wants to use for coal into building dams on the rivers in Enugu State, one dam at a time, if he builds a dam, a single dam, what he will get is number one, he will get hydroelectricity, which is a renewable source of energy, very clean. He will get pipe-borne water for the adjoining communities around that dam. He will get irrigation for all year round farming by people around the, and then he will get fishing activities, which is another huge industry that is underutilized in Nigeria. So he's going to get these four things: hydroelectricity, crop farming all year round with irrigation, pipe-borne water, and fishing activities. And then he can build tourism around that whole ecosystem where people can come with children, families, and they see the dam, they see the fishing, and they see the irrigation, the farming, and everything that is going around that place. It will be far better use of money than committing to coal. Going to coal is like returning to Egypt when we are being liberated to go to the promised land. So that is that about coal. Now, let me go to what you have asked, that how do we turn around the hand of the clock? How do we make things better? How do we turn the ugly and the bad that are described to good? There is a single answer, and that answer is that Nigeria must put the private sector in the driving seat in our energy sector. Once we put the private sector in the driving seat, Nigeria can just sit back, relax, and see how the sector will boom. And all of the issues that are raised will be resolved. For instance, one of the reasons why Nigeria is still producing less than 2 million barrels of crude oil today is because government decided to do business with international oil companies. So they formed joint ventures. And together with joint venture, in a joint venture, the partners bring money together, and the operator goes in, looks for the oil. If he finds the oil, develops the facilities, and they start producing. And as they are producing, they share the crude oil in line with their participating interest. Government action has militated against those joint ventures over time because government does not have the billions of dollars to contribute as cash call to the joint ventures. So imagine government releases itself from the joint ventures and allows the private sector to take over, raise the finance, and do the work. That alone will increase our oil production by millions of barrels per day. And then we have gas. Again, the behemoth, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation I talked about, they have a lot of gas plants scattered all over the Niger Delta. In fact, for most of the flow stations in the Niger Delta, the NNPCA has a gas plant next to it so that the gas plant will now be harnessing the gas and pushing it into the economy. But all that is dead, just like their refineries are dead. So the gas plants are dead. So the pipelines are dead, right? That's another thing I didn't talk about. And Nigeria today, as we speak today, is still trucking petroleum products by road. So even in the recent controversy in Dangote refinery, it's because they want to carry petrol by road from Lekki in Lagos to as far as Maiduguri, Kano, Sokoto, and all those other far in-country cities. Nobody does that. Petroleum products are transported by pipelines. So if you want to send petrol to Abuja, you will pipe it from Lekki straight to Abuja. It is when it arrives in Abuja that trucks will not carry it from Abuja and supply it to petrol stations. But other nations, you won't even need those trucks because from the Abuja terminal, they can still pipe the petrol to the petrol stations and all of that. So, but the NNPC is this pipeline access, which are there. So everything that we have put in the hands of the NNPC is dead. We have put upstream petroleum is dead. We have put refineries is dead. We have put pipelines is dead. We have put gas assets is dead. Everything in their hand, dead. So that's another thing that the government needs to do. The government just needs to privatize this NNPCL, put private sector in the driving seat, and then we can make a lot of headway. The same thing will happen in electricity. Even though a lot of Nigerians will say, oh, but we privatize electricity now. Oh, yes, we did privatize electricity, but what the President Goodluck Jonathan government did with electricity is a scam. It's no privatization at all. And that is why, for me, I always advise President Tinubu that he can never resolve the electricity sector in Nigeria without going to undo what President Goodluck Jonathan did. For so long as what President Goodluck Jonathan did is still in place, it will be a very difficult thing to liberate the and will continue to be pinned down to this 5,000 megawatts of electricity, which is a really ugly thing for a country like Nigeria. To supply 5,000 megawatts. It's one nation like that with 3 million people. 3 million people. He supply 8,000 megawatts of electricity. So 3 million people are enjoying almost double the electricity that 200 million people are supplying. This is the greatest energy poverty in the world. 5,000 megawatts to 200 million people, because by global standards, it should have been 200,000 megawatts. So President Tinubu can unlock value in the electricity sector by putting true, competent private sector operators in charge. The people that President Goodluck Jonathan put in charge are charlatans. They don't have the capital, they don't have the expertise, they don't have the technology. They have nothing to offer Nigerians. They have sat on our electricity assets, and the only thing on their mind is tariffs. They want to take more money from Nigerians whilst they are producing 5,000 megawatts of electricity. You know that when we handed the access to them, Nigeria was doing 6,000 to 7,000 megawatts of electricity. So what sort of private sector that you hand over 6,000 to 7,000 megawatts to them, and they are only giving us 5,000 today, and they are charging us far more money? I don't want to call them some other names, but I just want you to know that they are charlatans and they need to be dislodged, and then we can resolve the issues in the electricity sector.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nick Agule. It is always insightful listening to your analysis. Thank you for your perspectives.
Thank you so very much for having me. A nice day to our viewers.
Still moving on with very quality content. New Day continues after now. Stay with us.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking. Events occur and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.